What's up, folks? Welcome back to another Mick Salmon video. Today we're going to do something a little bit different, something a little new, something that one or two of you have actually reached out to ask me about, and that is in relation to real-world flight planning. So we are actually going to sit here and do a real-world flight plan from scratch. I'm not going to go too much into detail. I'll keep it at the, for the most part, very high level here, but we're going to do a VFR flight plan for an actual real world route that we're going to do tomorrow. Today is Thursday. Today is Thanksgiving. Not sure when this video will get posted, but it is the evening. I am stuffed. So we're going to now sit here, plan out the flight for tomorrow. We're actually going to Palm Springs. We're going to do a day trip. Spend a day in Palm Springs, hang out, do a couple of things out there, maybe even some Black Friday shopping, and then head back home. So that being said, let's take a look at trusty 4-flight. We've got 4-flight up right now. We are going to go from, obviously, Cable to Palm Springs. So right away, that is going to draw us a direct line, or a direct route rather, to Palm Springs. Obviously, we know we can't really go direct, at least not on a VFR flight plan, or at least not without taking into consideration a couple of different things, such as, first of all, terrain and minimum safe altitudes, but as well as airspaces. So, obviously, if we were going to go direct out of Cable, we'd be cutting right through the Ontario class Charlie, and that's a no-no, at least not without getting flight following. So we're going to doctor this up just a little bit to kind of reflect more of what, in actuality, what this flight plan is going to look like. So obviously we've departed Cable a few times before, so we know exactly what we need to do as we depart runway 24 out of there. So what I'm going to do is insert a fix, which is going to essentially take me just northeast of the airport. What's going to happen is we'll depart runway 24, we'll make a left downwind, and actually we'll go across midfield, head northeast over San Antonio Heights, and then as we're doing that, we'll call up Ontario or SoCal for flight following to Palm Springs. So that should give us enough time to ensure we're not coming through the class Charlie, at least not until we get flight following. So we've got that there. The next thing I want to probably do is go direct banning. So again, this is just based on typically what most folks do here in the SoCal area. On the way to Palm Springs from the west, you typically cut through the banning pass. So we'll put a couple of different fixes, which includes banning here. San Bernardino will be off to our left. And in fact, in the event, for whatever reason, I don't foresee it, to be honest, but for whatever reason, if SoCal wants us to stay clear of Ontario's class Charlie, let's even put San Bernardino in there. So we'll do, after Palo, we'll throw in San Bernardino. And that should keep us at least a little bit north of Ontario's class Charlie. So one of the other things we have to figure out as well is what altitude we want to go at. So we are going east. Obviously, the cardinal rules, eastbound is odd plus 500. And then taking in consideration that this route is only about 65 nautical miles, and obviously taking into account some of the terrain that we have around here, I think 5,500 is a good bet. So obviously we want to stay clear of kind of the mountainous terrain over here. I do not know how to pronounce this. I know a lot of folks kind of butcher this, and I think I will as well, but the Jacanito, whoever's familiar with SoCal can kind of correct me, but Jacanito, we'll stay clear of Jacanito just because, again, the highest elevation figure around there looks like to be about 11,200. So we'll usually cut through Banning or cut over Banning and then cut through the Banning Pass. And then SoCal will likely want you to follow the 111. And I'm sorry, I don't know why that's so blurry. I think as you zoom in, it gets a little blurry. There we go, that looks a little bit better. So we'll kink this a little bit to follow the 111 after Banning. I'll just throw that in there like that. Another GPS fix. And again, based on the weather and the winds, and we'll get to that in a second here, we're likely going to be given the left downwind for 3-1 left. We are parking at Signature flight support tomorrow, so 3-1 left is ideally what they'd give us, and we'll vacate somewhere around here. But we'll get into that in a second. So anyway, taking a step back, I think that looks like a pretty good route. We'll go back here. We'll plug in 5500. Actually, it's already there, so we'll close that out. Tomorrow, I think we're scheduled for about 10 a.m., 10:05. That looks good. And then we can now pack the flight. So we'll let that load up. In the interim, we can go ahead and take a look at some weather while that's getting packed out there. So honestly, and like I've mentioned before, really, interpreting and kind of making that go no go decision starts, days before you even step foot in the aircraft, days before you even drive to the airport, really, ideally. So I've been, kind of watching the weather and the conditions here in the SoCal area between here and Palm Springs for the last week or so to kind of get a picture of what's going to be going on. We've had some strong Santa Ana winds over the last couple of days. Obviously, as you can see here, looking at the surface analysis, we've got looks like a segment here ready for some low-level wind shear activities and whatnot. So we'll drill into some of those. That's obviously talking about today. Moderate turbulence at about 8,500 as well as 9,500. So we'll look out for that. We'll see what kind of aircrafts reported those. Obviously, if it's something like a Cessna and they're reporting moderate, we'll want to be careful of that as well. But if we've got like a 757 or a 767 reporting moderate turbulence, then we know that's definitely going to be something that's a little bit alarming for us, and that we'll have to be cautious of. But that's today, and like I mentioned, we've just had some really strong Santa Ana winds here lately. So anyway, taking a step back here, it looks like while 4Flight is packing up the trip, just looking at some surface analysis information, looks like moderate turbulence is really the only thing reported so far on that segment. The other thing that I like to do is take a look at, let's go to forecast, let's do winds and temps. Let's go to our region. Tomorrow we are departing on the 26th around 1800 Zulu. I want to make sure that is correct, valid, time looks good. And we want to pick the closest VOR reporting station, obviously for our route of flight. And between here and Palm Springs, our closest one's definitely going to be Ontario. So we'll take a look at Ontario. Looks like 050 at 13, at 3000, at 6000. We're looking at 070 at 11 degrees. If we were, for whatever reason, going a little bit higher, 060 at 11 and 7. So it looks like for the most part, winds will be relatively normal for tomorrow's trip versus kind of the winds that we've been seeing here over the last few days. So that's pretty good. None of these other reporting stations are really applicable to us or our route of flight tomorrow. So from a winds and temps aloft standpoint, we look to be pretty okay. Also need to mention that, this is obviously my legwork and my groundwork that I'm doing, but I always finish up kind of my final flight planning the morning of or whatever time just before we head out to the airport with 1-800-WX brief, talk to flight services and get an actual thorough briefing just to compare the things that I'm seeing with what they're seeing to obviously make that go no go decision. So next thing we want to look at is the Proc Charts. We'll come down here and actually get the surface plot. again, just taking a look at this, really no concerns for us. We've got some trough, extended area of low pressure there out towards the west, out towards the coast, a little bit more inland as well. Really no concerns for us here. Really, the entire U.S. is being dominated by high pressure right now. So I think pretty good weather for the most part. High pressure is going to give you, your clear skies, good weather for flying. Low pressure typically gives you kind of that poor visibility and some of those conditions that are not necessarily favorable for flying. But with high pressure, you do get those strong winds from time to time, especially with the Santa Anas here in SoCal. So just looking at the surface plots really quickly, looks like we should be okay. We've got some isobars here, again, connecting lines of equal pressure here. They're tightly packed together here in the northwest. Obviously, that's going to tell you you've got some strong winds going on out there. Not so much down here in SoCal, but again, we do have the Santa Anas blowing pretty good there right now. Let's drill down into 1800 for our time tomorrow. Again, more or less the same. You see that the actual isobars kind of widen now as we get towards our, closer to our departure time for our flight tomorrow. So again, should be a little less bumpy, a little less windy than it has been the last couple of days. That trough actually also moves a little bit more offshore. So again, no visibility or weather phenomena or too much of a, wind concern there for tomorrow's trip. So that's that. What else can we take a look at? Obviously, we've got radar. And really not much going on. We'll take a look at some additional Proc Charts. Let's look at the low level, so surface to 240, low level significant weather. Kind of zoom in here and see what we're looking at. Again, we've got some moderate turbulence being reported there. Again, just been really bumpy the last couple of days, so looking out for that. But we should be a little bit calmer tomorrow. Again, some more moderate turbulence being reported there as well. Let's see, what else can we take a look at? We'll actually hit turbulence here. Again, just some graphical charts to kind of depict where the turbulence areas are. Again, following up here from the surface to about 12,000 feet, moderate turbulence being reported. So again, that segment is there and has been there for the last couple of days. I think that's really it by ways of weather. Again, this gives us a very high level, quick, snapshot of what the weather is looking like out there today, as well as what it's going to be looking like tomorrow. So we can get out of that for now. 4 flights should be done packing. It is, so we'll close that. We will send this to flights. There we go. And we will grab a briefing. So again, this is going to step us through really, for the most part, what flight services is going to read us through tomorrow when we give them a call. They're going to go a little bit more in depth. This is why I like to call them. And again, it kind of backs up everything that I'm seeing and making sure I'm interpreting all of that correctly again. So we make that proper go, no go decision. So first things first, we generally get flight restrictions or temporary flight restrictions, I should say TFRs. We always have this, this Disney TFR has been here for years. So we're not going anywhere near Disney. No need to concern ourselves around that. So we can move on to synopsis. Again, surface analysis chart. We just walked through that on aviationweather.gov. Pretty much seeing the same things here, right? Areas really being dominated by high pressure throughout the country, towards, as you get towards the east and whatnot, right? We've got some cold fronts or even stationary fronts going on there with some rain and whatnot. So no need to concern ourselves about that from a surface analysis chart standpoint. METARs, everything fully VFR right now, and expect it to be fully VFR throughout really the next couple of days. We could take a look at actually the forecast discussion as well. and that will talk about a lot of that information. So we'll be flying again our route of flight, Cable, San Bernardino, Banning, and then right into Palm Springs. We'll think about kind of what our alternates look like. For whatever reason, if we get halfway there, and we want to make our way back into Cable, and we can, Cable will be our first alternate. If for whatever reason we can't get into Palm Springs and we kind of need to land a little bit sooner than that, we could always go into Banning as well. We'll take a look at obviously what the runway lengths and what services are available at those airports as well. All of that kind of goes into picking alternate. So anyway, fully VFR PIREPs. We've got, let's see, what's our first PIREP again? Cessna 208 reporting turbulence. We've got an Embraer 175, it looks like, reporting turbulence as well. And looks like another Embraer 175 reporting turbulence. So like I said, it's been pretty gusty out there. So one a little further south, one in the Irvine area. They were probably going into John Wayne. And then one a little bit closer to us down there in Ontario. Actually, yes, they were going in Ontario. If you look there, they were going into John Wayne there as well. So again, likely that should be dissipating tomorrow, but that's just what it looks like right now. Looking at the cloud coverage, we've got some high cirrus clouds, so sky clear for the most part as well there, so no worries there. Looking at the continental United States, again, specifically for us, we look pretty good for tomorrow. This is just some surface winds and additional PIREPs, some additional TAFs here. So let's take a look at Ontario, which is Cable. Cable is an uncontrolled airport. They've got an AWAS, so the closest TAF reporting station would be Ontario. For our time of departure, 1805 Zulu. Look, they've even highlighted it for us. Winds are expected to be roughly variable at 4 plus 6 statute miles and sky clear. So look good there. There's some tasks for some other airports around the area. Let's see if we can find Palm Springs. Expected time of arrival around 1846 Zulu. We're looking at variable at 4 plus 6 statute miles, sky clear. So again, those winds really calmed down compared to what they've been today or last couple of days. Like even take a look at Ontario right now, 060 at 15, gusting at 22 knots, or at least what's reported TAF wise. Long Beach 090 at 15, gusting at 20. Look at these. Let's see Palm Springs. Not too bad there at Palm Springs, but yeah, Riverside 060 at 12, gusting at 20. We've got a tempo here 060 at 15, gusting at 27. So yeah, it's been pretty windy. Wind chart again, for the most part, pretty light winds headed east, 12 degrees Celsius at our cruising altitude. So no concerns there. Those are the winds aloft tables at 5,500. Departure NOTAMs. Definitely want to pay attention to the NOTAMs. We've got nothing really here from a navigation, communication, or service standpoint. We've got some obstruction within the surrounding airports like Chino, Brackett. All these things have been here and have been here for quite some time. We're familiar with them. But obviously, if you are new to the area and you'd kind of just be coming in here for the first time, you'd kind of want to drill into these a little bit more just to make sure you understand and note where these obstructions are. So we'll continue here. Destination NOTAMs. We've got some, let's see, some nav aid information regarding Palm Springs. Again, not applicable to us. We're going to be navigating via GPS and just overall dead reckoning. So we're not pilotage, I should say. So we're not too concerned about those. Fully VFR tomorrow. Wind turbine. So we do know going into Palm Springs and coming through the Banning Pass, there are a ton of wind farms, ton of wind turbines. Definitely want to familiarize ourselves with those. Here are the kind of altitudes around them. Also noting that they are not lighted. So not too much of a concern going in, but on our way back might be, getting towards sunset, getting towards the nighttime there. We're going to be flying right back through the Banning Pass. So we definitely want to be cognizant of that. And then we've got some more information here for some lighting on runway 13 right at Palm Springs. Additional navigation aids: Paradise VOR, Fullerton, Santa Ana, John Wayne, Palm Springs. Again, not too concerned with those route navigation aids. In-route service NOTAMs, Ontario. Some information about the ATIS there on 3435, Fullerton, Santa Ana, and Long Beach. Not too concerned about that. En-route airspaces, so another thing we want to be cognizant of, and again, flight services would likely give us this as well, or will give us this, but aerobatic aircrafts within the vicinity, out of Riverside and Romeo Echo India as well. Unmanned aircrafts. Again, thermal. So thermal will be kind of the most applicable to us there on our way to Palm Springs, but the rest of these airports are north of our route. Riverside as well. We'll be passing that on the way. So we want to keep cognizant of that, especially Riverside. Looks like 35 to 7,500. And this is active daily. So we'll be on flight following, hopefully, so they'll help us look out for that, but we want to be cognizant of that ourselves as well. Let's see, en route runway, taxiway, apron, Ontario, 8 left, Ontario, just a bunch of Ontario stuff. We do not plan on going to Ontario whatsoever, so not too concerned about that. Chino, some more information there. Again, you can spend the time reading through all of these, but for the purposes of this video and understanding kind of at a high level the things that we look out for flight planning, we'll just keep it moving here. And other NOTAMs at Brackett, Pomona, Chino, instructions about lighted towers, power lines. Again, we don't plan on going anywhere near those other airports. And again, we are familiar with the area as well, so be cognizant of those. Additional NOTAMs. So these, as you can see, there are a ton of NOTAMs. You can spend all day reading NOTAMs for your flight. You definitely want to call flight services because they will definitely help ensure that you are kind of, aware and attentive to the ones that are going to be directly applicable to your route of flight and to your timing as well. So that is the overall synopsis and the briefing from 4Flight. Again, it's a pretty nifty tool, man. It's 4Flight's incredible, especially with the briefing. It's going to give you really the overall picture of what you can expect for your flight. Again, you've got other tools like aviationweather.gov that we just visited as well, even before, packing the 4Flight data and reading through that. And again, last but not least, we will get an actual briefing. So that's actually the flight plan there. The next thing we want to do is kind of drill down into Palm Springs and take a look at that. So we will be going to Signature, right? So I already want to take a look at, yep, we can actually add the FBO information here. So again, you've got Atlantic or Signature. We reserved with Signature for tomorrow. So we'll make sure that's in here as well. We'll be able to contact them on our way there. They'll also be tracking us as well. They have our tail number. So my understanding is they'll be tracking us and kind of ready for our arrival as we make our way in there. What else? So let's take a look at Palm Springs itself. So Palm Springs is a TRSA. It's a terminal radar service area is what TRSA is short for. It's radar services for IFR traffic and participating VFR traffic. VFR traffic is not required to participate through the TRSA or in the TRSA. I'm sorry, I should back up. Palm Springs Airport itself is actually a Class Delta airspace to 3,000 feet. Surrounding Palm Springs, you've got the TRSA, and the TRSA goes to, I think, 10,000 feet. Yes, it is. Ground at 10,000 feet. With TRSA, again, radar service area, coverage for our, IFR traffic and participating VFR traffic. Primary purpose to, again, help segregate and segment the incoming and outgoing VFR and IFR traffic. VFR traffic is not required to participate in the TRSA, but you'd be a madman not to going into Palm Springs. So we'll be participating, obviously, by way of flight following as well. Like I said, coming in there, they'll likely have us follow the 111 eastbound. They're going to ask where we're parking. From there, they'll tell us likely, unless we got, traffic or spacing issues, we'll more than likely get 3-1 left, so we can vacate and head to signature. From an overall performance standpoint, I mean, we know we've got plenty of runway with our weight. Where, you know, we've done our weight and balance. We know we've got plenty of runway for landing and takeoff, both at Cable and Palm Springs. Those would kind of be your other performance numbers or other performance things that you'd want to be cognizant of. But I think at a high level, man, that's it. Oh my gosh, 25 minutes in already. Geez. So again, that's just really the surface, man. We can go so much deeper here. At the end of the day, your ultimate, you know, pilot in command, your ultimate responsibility to be aware of and familiar with everything pertaining to that flight. I mean, everything. It doesn't even have to necessarily be. I think one of the other things actually that I pulled up was just some tips and tricks, not tips and tricks, but information about flying into Palm Springs. So see that here. Terser procedures, just general things that you're not necessarily going to see in ForeFlight or some of those other flight planning apps, but things that are published by the FAA, right? We've got bulletins that the FAA published sometimes about airports and whatnot. The airports themselves will publish things. We want to know about noise abatement procedures. The other thing that we want to familiarize ourselves with, again, and I've read this pretty thoroughly for the most part. We'll take a look at documents and let's go to the chart supplement. This is really going to give you some additional information about Palm Springs as well. So let's pull up Papa Sierra Papa. There we go. Taking a look here. Again, it's going to give you your runway lengths. Talks about displaced threshold. It's going to give you your frequencies. Gives you airport remarks. Here's some information about noise. Lengthy noise, idling, and run-ups on ramp area prohibited. Contact airport ops. You know, all of this information it's really beyond. I'm sorry, I didn't realize this stuff was getting blurry. Let's back out here. I'm doing a screen share, so that's what's going on. There we go. All of this information is really information that you should be familiarizing yourself with. It's not just about flying to and from the airport. Really understanding what the airport looks like, the airport environment, the airport culture, what's surrounding the airport. Noise abatement is a big deal, really throughout the country, throughout the world, right? But here in SoCal, for a lot of these airports, they are extremely strict on it. So want to make sure we're being cognizant of that as well. So that is pretty much it. We're going to end it here. I've got another video coming. Obviously, I think some of you guys asked about some of the tools that we use for recording ATC footage and audio. So stay tuned for that one as well. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Take care.